Key, a housewife who recently turned 72, has found herself at the center of a deeply troubling situation. It all began when she managed to arrange a substantial amount of $330,000 to cover the cost of her eldest son and his wife's critical liver transplant. This money was requested by her son and daughter-in-law themselves, making their subsequent actions all the more baffling. To Key's astonishment, after she had gone to great lengths to secure the necessary funds, her daughter-in-law confronted her with hurtful words, accusing Key of acting high and mighty over the matter. Her daughter-in-law seemed to take pleasure in witnessing Key's emotional reaction. With a smirk and venomous words, Key's patience finally reached its limit. In response to the hurtful encounter, Key made the difficult decision to reclaim her money and abruptly leave the hospital room. The incident left her questioning whether it was justifiable to continue providing financial support to individuals who would treat her with such contempt. Since the passing of her husband 3 years ago, Key has been living a quiet life alone in the countryside, relying primarily on her late husband's pension. While she has grown accustomed to the rural lifestyle, there are moments when the weight of her solitude becomes burdensome, especially at her age. Seeking solace in her son's company, Key has repeatedly asked Nick, who is now 43 and has his own family, to visit her whenever he finds the time. However, Nick's demanding work schedules frequently prevent him from making the journey. In an effort to maintain some level of connection, he even suggested that Ellie, Nick's wife, visit her on her own. However, despite being a stay-at-home wife, Ellie consistently claims to be too busy to make the trip, leaving Key feeling dismissed and ignored. Recently, Key has learned that Ellie's claims of business are nothing more than falsehoods. She discovered that her eldest son and his wife live in an apartment just a short 10-minute walk from Ellie's family home. Shockingly, it appears that Ellie spends the majority of her time at her family's residence, even choosing to stay overnight regularly. The culmination of these events has left Key grappling with feelings of betrayal, loneliness, and frustration. As we delve deeper into Key's story, we will explore the complexities of her relationship with her son and daughter-in-law, shedding light on the impact their actions have had on her life and emotional well-being. Key, still reeling from the hurtful accusation thrown at her by her daughter-in-law, reflects on the unexpected reaction she encountered. After arranging a substantial amount of $330,000 for her son and daughter-in-law's critical liver transplant, Key couldn't believe the words that spilled out of her daughter-in-law's mouth. These were the very same individuals who had requested to borrow the money, making the accusation seem even more unjust. As Key presented the funds, the wife of the man undergoing surgery seemed to revel in Key's reaction. A smirk played on her lips as she spat out those awful words, leaving Key's heart shattered. In that moment, Key's patience reached its limit. She couldn't fathom spending her hard-earned money on individuals who would treat her with such disregard and disrespect. Faced with this painful reality, Key made the courageous decision to take her money back and walk out of the hospital room. It was a moment that marked a breaking point in the relationship between Key and her son's wife. The emotional toll of the accusation left Key questioning the true nature of their character. Key, a 72-year-old widow, had been living a quiet life alone in the countryside since her husband's passing 3 years ago. Relying on her late husband's pension, she had grown accustomed to the solitude of rural living. However, at times, the loneliness crept in, particularly as she reached her golden years. Yearning for the company and connection of her son, Nick, Key repeatedly extended invitations for him to visit. Unfortunately, Nick's demanding work commitments often hindered his ability to spend time with his mother. In an effort to maintain some semblance of closeness, Key even suggested that just his wife, Ellie, pay her a visit. After all, Ellie was a stay-at-home wife and didn't have the same work obligations as Nick. However, every time Key reached out, Ellie claimed to be too busy. Recent revelations have exposed Ellie's claims of business as outright lies. Key discovered that her eldest son and his wife live in an apartment merely a short 10-minute walk from Ellie's family home. Shockingly, it appears that Ellie spends the majority of her days at her family's residence, even choosing to stay overnight frequently. The wife's reaction to the situation has left Key feeling betrayed and hurt. It has illuminated the complexity of her relationship with her son and daughter-in-law, raising questions about their true intentions and priorities. In the next section, we will delve deeper into the strain and uncover the underlying factors that contribute to this complicated dynamic, the author's patience reaching its limit. The hurtful words and disrespectful attitude exhibited by her daughter-in-law became the last straw for Key, pushing her patience to its breaking point. It was unfathomable to Key that after going to great lengths to arrange $330,000 for her eldest son and his wife's life-saving liver transplant, such words would be thrown at her. This money had been requested by her son and daughter-in-law themselves, making the accusation all the more unjust. As Key stood there, shocked and wounded, the wife of the man getting the surgery seemed to relish in her reaction. Her smirk and the satisfaction evident in her eyes after spitting out those awful words shattered the remaining fragments of Key's patience. In that moment, Key realized that if this is truly who they were, individuals who would treat her with such contempt, then she couldn't justify spending her hard-earned money on them any longer. With a heavy heart, Key made the difficult decision to take her money back and hastily walked out of the hospital room, leaving behind a sense of disbelief and disappointment. It was a defining moment that not only exposed the fissures in her relationship with her son and his wife, but also marked a turning point in her own life. Key, a 72-year-old housewife, had been living in quiet solitude in the countryside since her husband's passing 3 years prior. Relying on her late husband's pension, she had gracefully adapted to the simplicity of rural living. Yet despite her adjustment, the inevitable loneliness that comes with age occasionally crept in, reminding her of the void left by her husband's absence. Desperate for connection and companionship, Key had continuously reached out to her son, Nick, urging him to visit whenever he found the time. However, Nick's demanding work schedule often stood as a barrier, preventing him from being there for his mother. In an effort to bridge the divide, Key even suggested that just Nick's wife, Ellie, come to visit. After all, as a stay-at-home wife, it seemed logical to assume she had the time. Much to Key's disappointment, Ellie consistently claimed to be too busy to make the trip. Recently, Key made a shocking discovery that shattered any remaining illusions. She found out that her eldest son and his wife actually resided in an apartment, just a short 10-minute walk away from Ellie's family home. It became apparent that Ellie spent most of her days with her own family, even staying overnight quite frequently, unbeknownst to Key. These revelations pierced Key's heart, intensifying the sense of betrayal she felt. It was as if the veil had been lifted, revealing the true nature of the relationship she had with her son and daughter-in-law. The combination of hurtful words, constant excuses, and the realization of the truth had brought Key to a breaking point, leaving her questioning the very essence of her familial bonds. In the upcoming sections, we will explore the repercussions of these events on Key's emotional well-being and delve further into the complexities of her relationships with her son and daughter-in-law. The author's background, Key, the 72-year-old housewife who just celebrated her springtime birthday, has been living a solitary life since her husband's demise 3 years ago. Her days are spent quietly in the serene countryside, relying on the pension left behind by her late husband. Adjusting to the rhythms of rural life has become second nature to her, yet there are moments when the weight of solitude becomes palpable, particularly at her age. Key's eldest son, Nick, is now 43 and leads a life of his own. He is married, has a family of his own, and is financially independent. However, despite the physical distance that separates them, Key longs for the presence and companionship of her son. She frequently reaches out, urging Nick to visit whenever his demanding work schedule allows. Unfortunately, Nick's professional commitments often render him unable to make the journey to see his mother. In an attempt to bridge the gap, Key proposed that just Nick's wife, Ellie, pay her a visit. Ellie, being a stay-at-home wife, led Key to believe that she had ample free time. But much to Key's dismay, every time she extended the invitation, Ellie claimed to be too busy to drop by. This pattern of unfulfilled promises left Key questioning the sincerity of their relationship. Recently, Key made a startling discovery that shattered her illusions. She learned that Ellie and her eldest son actually reside in an apartment merely a 10-minute walk away from Ellie's family home. It became clear that Ellie spends the majority of her days in the comfort of her own family's residence, even staying overnight with them on a frequent basis. This revelation cast a shadow of doubt over Key's perception of her daughter-in-law, adding to the sense of betrayal she already felt. This background paints a picture of the emotions Key grapples with daily. The twinges of loneliness combined with her longing for familial connection have created a deep-rooted yearning within her. The hurt caused by the words thrown at her and the subsequent actions taken by her son and daughter-in-law have strained the already fragile bonds of family. In the upcoming sections, we will explore the emotional impact these circumstances have had on Key and delve further into the dynamics of her relationships with her son and daughter-in-law. In the wake of the painful incident involving her son and daughter-in-law, Key finds herself at a crossroads, grappling with a mixture of emotions and contemplating her next steps. As a 72-year-old housewife, Key has been living alone in the peaceful countryside since her husband's passing 3 years ago. Her existence revolves around the memories of her late husband and the financial security of his pension. While Key has grown accustomed to the tranquility of rural life, there are moments when a sense of isolation settles upon her. The solitude that accompanies her age can sometimes become overwhelming, leading her to seek solace in the company of her loved ones. It is during these times that Key reaches out to her son, Nick, with the hope of spending quality time together. However, Key's efforts to bridge the gap between her and her son are often met with disappointment. Despite her son's financial independence and the stability of his own family, Nick's demanding work commitments frequently hinder his ability to visit his mother. Key's longing for connection led her to even suggest that just Nick's wife, Ellie, should come to visit. Key assumed that as a stay-at-home wife, Ellie would have the time to spare. Unfortunately, Ellie consistently claims to be too busy whenever Key extends an invitation. The recent revelation that Ellie spends most of her days at her own family home, just a short walk from their apartment, felt like a blow to Key's heart. Hearing that Ellie often stays overnight there only served to deepen the wound. This newfound knowledge shattered any remaining illusions Key had about the sincerity of her daughter-in-law's excuses and further strained the already fragile ties between them. Key's current situation finds her at a pivotal juncture, grappling with a mix of emotions, hurt, betrayal, and a growing sense of detachment from her own family. The hurtful words and actions directed towards her, coupled with the constant unavailability of her son and daughter-in-law, have left her feeling isolated and abandoned. In the subsequent sections, we will delve into the emotional journey that Key embarks upon as she navigates this challenging time in her life. We will explore the impact of these circumstances on Key's overall well-being and delve deeper into her quest for understanding, companionship, and ultimately, a sense of fulfillment in her relationships. Loneliness at an older age. The weight of loneliness becomes more pronounced as one reaches an older age, as is the case with Key, the 72-year-old housewife. Key's husband passed away 3 years ago, leaving her to navigate life's complexities on her own. Living quietly in the countryside, Key relies on her late husband's pension to sustain herself. While she has grown accustomed to the serene rhythm of rural life, there are moments when the solitude becomes overwhelming. At this stage of her life, Key finds herself yearning for companionship and connection, particularly with her son, Nick. Despite his financial independence and own family, Nick's demanding work schedule often prevents him from visiting his mother. Key's reached out to Nick, expressing her desire for his company. But time and again, his professional obligations take precedence. This leaves Key feeling increasingly isolated and vulnerable. Recognizing the limitations of Nick's availability, Key suggested that just his wife, Ellie, visit her. As a stay-at-home wife, Key assumed Ellie would have the time to spare. However, each time Key extended an invitation, Ellie claimed to be busy, further deepening Key's feelings of loneliness and rejection. The recent revelation that Ellie spends most of her days at her family home, not far from their apartment, added a new layer of hurt and betrayal. Loneliness can be particularly challenging to navigate at an older age when social interactions and connections become increasingly vital for overall well-being. The absence of regular companionship and the feeling of being disregarded by one's own family can exacerbate these emotions. Key's experience highlights the importance of meaningful relationships and connection, especially during the later stages of life when support systems may shrink and the need for companionship becomes more apparent. In the following sections, we will explore the emotional toll loneliness takes on Key and delve into her efforts to find solace, understanding, and a renewed sense of purpose. We will also examine the impact of societal attitudes toward older individuals and the importance of fostering inclusive communities that prioritize companionship and support for everyone, regardless of age. Key's son, Nick, finds himself trapped in the incessant cycle of business that dominates his life. At 43 years old, Nick is married, has his own family, and enjoys financial independence. However, his demanding work commitments consistently hinder his ability to make time for his mother, exacerbating her feelings of loneliness and isolation. While Key has repeatedly expressed her desire for Nick's presence, his responsibilities and obligations overshadow his availability to visit his mother. Despite his awareness of her longing for connection, Nick's work appears to take precedence, leaving Key feeling neglected and unimportant in his life. Aware of the constraints on Nick's schedule, Key came up with a compromise suggesting that just Nick's wife, Ellie, could come and visit. As a stay-at-home wife without professional commitments, Key expected that Ellie would have the time to spare. However, her repeated claims of being busy only served to deepen Key's sense of disappointment and rejection. Recently, Key discovered the truth behind Ellie's alleged business. She spends most of her days at her family home, a mere 10-minute walk from their apartment. Learning from Nick that Ellie even stays overnight at her family home added an additional layer of hurt and disbelief to Key's already fragile emotional state. While Nick's business might stem from the demands of his career and responsibilities, his inability to make time for his mother has strained their relationship. The absence of regular visits and genuine connection has created an emotional distance between them, leaving Key questioning her significance in her son's life. In the subsequent sections, we will delve into the complex dynamics between Key and Nick, exploring the impact of his business on their relationship. We will uncover Key's efforts to reach out to him and the potential consequences of an emotionally strained connection between a mother and her son. Ellie, Nick's wife, has consistently given excuses for her inability to visit Key, leaving a sense of disappointment and frustration in their relationship. As a stay-at-home wife, one might assume that Ellie would have the time to spare for family connections. However, each time Key reaches out, Ellie claims she is too busy, which adds to Key's growing sense of loneliness and rejection. Key had hoped that inviting Ellie alone to visit would provide an opportunity for bonding and companionship, but Ellie's continuous unavailability shattered these hopes. Key was taken aback when she discovered that Ellie spends most of her days at her family home, just a short distance from their apartment. Moreover, learning from Nick that Ellie often stays overnight at her family home further fueled Key's feelings of hurt and betrayal. It is unclear why Ellie consistently provides excuses for her absence, as her role as a stay-at-home wife suggests a level of flexibility in her schedule. This discrepancy between Ellie's claimed business and her actual activities raises questions about her commitment to nurturing her relationship with Key. The revelation of Ellie's lies has strained the already fragile ties between them, leaving Key feeling disregarded and unimportant in her daughter-in-law's eyes. In the subsequent sections, we will explore the impact of Ellie's excuses on Key's emotional well-being and her longing for genuine companionship. We will delve deeper into the complexities of their relationship, examining the potential underlying reasons behind Ellie's behavior and its implications for Key's overall sense of belonging and connection within her own family. The revelation of Ellie's true whereabouts has shed light on the discrepancies between her claimed business and her actual activities. Key, who initially believed Ellie's excuses and had grown increasingly hurt by her unavailability, now understands the reality of the situation. Nick disclosed that Ellie spends the majority of her days at her family home, where she even stays overnight. This newfound knowledge has left Key feeling a mix of emotions: disappointment, betrayal, and a sense of being deceived. The question of why Ellie chose to provide false explanations for her absence lingers in Key's mind. The disparity between Ellie's actions and her role as a stay-at-home wife, with what appears to be ample time on her hands, raises doubts about her commitment to fostering a bond with Key. Key wonders why Ellie actively avoided spending time with her, especially when Key extended multiple invitations for her to visit. The fact that Ellie seemed to revel in Key's reaction when hurtful words were thrown at her suggests a lack of empathy, further exacerbating the hurt and resentment Key feels. Understanding the truth about Ellie's whereabouts adds a significant layer of complexity to Key's experience of loneliness and isolation. It is not just Nick's business that has hindered their relationship, but also Ellie's apparent disinterest in forming a genuine connection with her mother-in-law. In the subsequent sections, we will explore the impact of this discovery on Key's emotional state and her quest for companionship. We will delve into the potential reasons behind Ellie's behavior, drawing on themes of family dynamics, personal priorities, and the toll that miscommunication and strained relationships can have on one's overall well-being. Overnight stays at Ellie's family home. The realization that Ellie not only spends most of her days, but also frequently stays overnight at her family home, which is conveniently located just a short distance from their apartment, has left Key pondering the reasons behind these extended visits. The knowledge that Ellie has been prioritizing her time with her own family over spending it with Key has fueled Key's feelings of hurt and rejection. Key, already grappling with loneliness and seeking companionship, had extended numerous invitations to Ellie, hoping to bridge the emotional gap that had formed between them. However, Ellie's consistent claims of being busy, which have now been exposed as lies, have added a new layer of complexity to their strained relationship. It is unclear why Ellie has chosen to spend a significant amount of time at her family home, seemingly disconnecting herself from her husband's family. Key can't help but question Ellie's commitment to nurturing a bond with her as her daughter-in-law. The fact that Ellie's behavior appears to prioritize her own family over Key raises concerns about the level of importance Key holds in Ellie's life. Aside from the emotional implications, Key wonders if there are deeper issues underlying Ellie's preference for spending time at her family home. It poses the question of whether Ellie feels discomfort or a lack of belonging within Key's family, or if there are unresolved conflicts that have led to this apparent detachment. In the subsequent sections, we will explore the effects of Ellie's overnight stays at her family home on Key's emotional well-being. We will delve into the potential reasons behind Ellie's choices, examining the impact they have on Key's sense of inclusion and her desire for authentic connections within her own family. The series of events unfolding before Key has left her grappling with a deep sense of betrayal. The hurtful words thrown at her by the wife of the man she had arranged a substantial amount of money for, coupled with the apparent joy the wife seemed to derive from Key's reaction, struck a chord deep within her. Key's patience quickly reached its limit, prompting her to reclaim the money and abruptly leave the hospital room. As a devoted housewife who recently turned 72, Key has been living a quiet life in the countryside since her husband's passing 3 years ago. Relying on her late husband's pension, she has learned to adapt to the tranquility of rural living. However, occasional bouts of loneliness do surface, especially at this stage of her life. Keen on reconnecting with her son Nick, she has repeatedly asked him to visit, only to be met with the excuse of his busy work schedule. Hoping to bridge the gap, Key suggested that just Ellie, Nick's wife, and a stay-at-home wife could visit. However, Ellie consistently claimed to be too busy, which left Key feeling further isolated. The recent revelation that Ellie spends most of her days at her family home, just a short distance away from their own apartment, has shattered Key's trust and intensified her sense of betrayal. Key had eagerly extended invitations and reached out to Ellie, longing for a genuine connection, only to have her intentions met with deceit. It is difficult for Key to comprehend why Ellie would choose to prioritize time with her own family over building a relationship with Key, her mother-in-law. The growing divide between them has left Key questioning the depth of Ellie's commitment to the marriage and to fostering a meaningful connection with Key as a member of their family. In the subsequent sections, we will delve into the emotional impact of this betrayal on Key's overall well-being. We will explore the complexities of trust and familial relationships, examining the potential repercussions of such actions on the dynamics within Key's family, and the toll it takes on her sense of belonging and significance. Key's patience and goodwill were pushed to their limits when faced with the hurtful words and apparent lack of gratitude from the wife of her eldest son. The severity of the situation became abundantly clear as the wife, seemingly reveling in Key's reaction, smirked after spitting out those awful words. Key felt a deep sense of disbelief and betrayal, prompting her to take a decisive step. She reclaimed the money and walked out of the hospital room. This act of withdrawing support was not a hasty one. Key had gone above and beyond by arranging a substantial amount, $330,000, for her son and his wife's critical liver transplant. The fact that Key's financial assistance was even requested made the hurtful words sting even more. Key's decision to take back the money was a direct response to the behavior displayed, leading her to question whether she should continue spending her hard-earned money on people who showed little appreciation and respect. As a 72-year-old widow living alone in the countryside, Key has adjusted to a quiet life, relying on her late husband's pension. Though she has embraced the rural lifestyle, the occasional bouts of loneliness become more pronounced at this stage of her life. Key had hoped that her son Nick would find time to visit, but his busy work schedule often prevents him from doing so, even suggesting that just Ellie, Nick's wife, and a stay-at-home wife could visit did not yield positive results, as Ellie consistently claimed to be busy. It was only recently that Key discovered the truth about Ellie's purported business, realizing that she spends the majority of her time at her family home, not far from their own apartment. This revelation further solidified Key's decision to withdraw support, as it highlighted a disconnect between Ellie's actions and her claims of business. In the subsequent sections, we will delve into the consequences and implications of Key's decision to withhold financial support. We will explore the impact on Key's relationships with her son and daughter-in-law, as well as the potential ramifications for the family dynamics. Additionally, we will examine the emotional toll that these events have taken on Key, both in terms of her sense of self-worth and her desire for authentic connections in her later years. Key finds herself at a crossroads, grappling with emotions of hurt, betrayal, and a longing for genuine connection. The series of events surrounding her son and daughter-in-law's behavior, coupled with her own experiences of loneliness and isolation, have prompted Key to seek a path forward. In light of this, a call to action emerges, one that encourages Key to reclaim her sense of self-worth and pursue meaningful connections in her life. First and foremost, Key must prioritize her own well-being. It is essential for her to recognize her own value and not allow hurtful words or actions to diminish her self-esteem. Key possesses a wealth of life experience and wisdom that is deserving of respect and recognition. By acknowledging her worth, Key can assert herself and set boundaries that promote her emotional well-being. In her quest for meaningful connections, Key can explore avenues beyond her son Nick and daughter-in-law Ellie. While it is natural to desire a closer relationship with her own family, it is important for Key to widen her social circle and seek companionship in other areas of her life. This could involve joining local community groups, volunteering, or participating in activities that align with her interests and passions. By engaging with others who share similar hobbies or passions, Key may find companionship and build new relationships that bring joy and fulfillment to her life. Furthermore, Key can take charge of her own happiness by nurturing existing relationships with friends and neighbors. Maintaining social connections, even in a small rural community, can be invaluable in combating feelings of loneliness. Key can reach out to friends, plan regular gatherings or outings, and rely on the support of those who understand and appreciate her. Lastly, Key can continue to communicate her needs and desires to her son and daughter-in-law. While the current dynamic may feel strained, open and honest conversations can offer the opportunity for understanding and growth. Key can assert herself respectfully, expressing her feelings and highlighting her desire for more meaningful engagement with Nick and Ellie. By sharing her perspective, Key can create a space for dialogue and potentially work towards building a stronger relationship. In conclusion, Key's journey towards finding authentic connections and reclaiming her sense of self-worth requires both introspection and action. By prioritizing her own well-being, seeking companionship outside of her immediate family, nurturing existing relationships, and engaging in open communication, Key can pave the way for a more fulfilling and meaningful chapter in her life.